Welcome to the deep dive. So, you might have seen this headline that absolutely shook the internet recently.
Oh, yeah. NTU researchers supposedly developed this miracle 20-day hair regeneration essence.
Yeah.
They said it was from just like natural fatty acids.
It really blew up. I mean, we're talking huge numbers. A news clip got over 100,000 views in, what, less than a day?
And that apparently translated to something like 18 million views globally. It's quite the phenomenon.
And the reaction online was just, wow, pure excitement. We saw comments, like, this should win the Nobel Prize.
Right. And that other one, the second protective mountain is born. Very patriotic, very hopeful.
Exactly. And when you see that kind of instant, massive hope, well, you have to ask, right, is the science actually backing this up, or is it just hype?
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to look past that media frenzy. We're going straight to the source materials, the news claim, and crucially, the actual research paper published in Cell Metabolism.
Okay, let's dive into the science first then. Let's forget the essence angle for a moment. That viral description sounds, well, miles away from a proper academic paper title. What were the researchers really looking at?
Well, the paper itself is titled, Adipocyte lipolysis activates epithelial stem cells for hair regeneration through fatty acid metabolic signaling.
Whoa, okay. That's a bit more technical than hair essence.
Just a bit,
Yeah.
straight away. You see the focus is on like fundamental biology. It's about how cells talk to each other, metabolism, signaling. Not really a ready-to-go product.
Can you maybe boil that down for us? What's the core mechanism they actually found?
Okay, sure. So essentially, they discovered this kind of complex conversation happening right there in the skin. When the skin needs to regenerate, immune cells called macrophages basically tell nearby fat cells, those are the adipocytes, to break down fat. That's lipolysis.
So the macrophages give the signal, and the fat cells release fuel, like fatty acids.
Exactly, free fatty acids. Think of it as raw energy becoming available. And then the hair follicle stem cells, the EHFSCs, they grab these fatty acids.
How do they grab them? Is it specific?
Yeah, they use a specific receptor on their surface called CD36. Once those fatty acids are inside the stem cell, they activate something called PGC1 alpha.
PGC1 alpha. What does that do?
Think of PGC1 alpha as like a master switch or maybe a turbocharger for the cell's energy production. It ramps up the mitochondria, the cell power plants.
Okay, so more fuel, more energy, and that wakes up the dormant hair stem cells.
That's the idea.
Hmm.
This big metabolic boost seems to be what pulls the hair follicle out of its resting state and kicks off regeneration. It's actually quite elegant biology.
It sounds really specific, yeah. But, okay, now we understand how it works. We absolutely need to talk about where they saw this working, because this seems to be where the media reports maybe skipped a pretty big detail.
A crucial detail. We looked really carefully through the abstract, the whole paper, in fact. The researchers consistently used the general term for hair, Kong in the original context. But nowhere, absolute nowhere, do they specifically mention human scalp hair, or, baldness.
So where did they see this hair regeneration?
The entire study, all the experiments showing this mechanism actually working, it was all done in the mouse model.
Okay. And that brings us right to the critical point, doesn't it? Why can't we just take what works for hair regrowth in mice and assume it'll fix human pattern baldness?
Well, because human scalp hair plays by a completely different set of rules compared to mouse fur or even human body hair.
Right, you see that difference all the time. You mentioned the analogy earlier, someone can be completely bald on top but have like a really thick beard or lots of body hair.
Exactly. The follicles are behaving totally differently, even oppositely. With male pattern baldness, scalp follicles become overly sensitive to androgens, to hormones like testosterone derivatives. That sensitivity actually causes them to shrink and eventually stop producing hair.
But body hair is different.
Yeah, body hair follicles, beard follicles, they often respond positively to those same androgens throughout life, leading to thicker growth. It's a biological contradiction right there.
Right.
Which is why, many successful treatments for human baldness actually work by blocking those androgens.
Not by just adding more fatty acid fuel.
Right. It's a different problem at its core.
Okay, that makes sense. What about that weird anecdote in some reports about the professor putting the sample on their own thigh for a few weeks and seeing hair grow?
Yeah, that anecdote, it actually highlights the problem, funnily enough. Seeing some hair grow on your thigh for 3 weeks doesn't tell you much about baldness. Why?
Because thigh hair isn't balding.
Precisely. Human thigh hair doesn't have a hair loss issue like scalp hair does. And its growth is naturally limited anyway, right? It grows maybe a few centimeters and then stops. It's not designed for the continuous, years-long growth potential of scalp hair.
So seeing it grow a bit on a thigh proves, well, nothing about reversing genetic baldness on the scalp.
Exactly. It's not the
Right.
right model. And honestly, if you look back, hair growth research is littered with studies that looked amazing in mice.
Only to fail completely in human scalp trials.
Decades of it. We've seen this pattern many, many times before.
So let's synthesize this. What we have is a genuinely interesting, quite complex study about metabolic signaling and stem cells in mice.
Sophisticated science, yeah.
But it got taken, simplified way down, and then amplified into this huge global story about a quick baldness cure. The gap between the headline and the actual published research is pretty stark.
It really is.
Which brings us back to critical thinking. When the potential prize is enormous, like curing baldness becoming that second protective mountain and the science is complicated,
Skepticism becomes incredibly important. You have to question the extraordinary claims.
and maybe a final thought for you, our listeners, is this. Apply that skepticism even when looking at the source. The researchers themselves, in the conclusion of their own paper, clearly state that effectiveness on human scalp hair still needs to be proven.
That crucial caveat, the nuanced truth, was right there in the scientific paper all along. It just got completely lost in the viral shuffle.